Hour 2 Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jason Strudwick. Leafs in San Jose tonight. Leafs a big favorite, but it's a tough one because you played 2 nights ago at home, somewhat of a cakewalk against the Flyers. Now you got to fly to California. You got a team who's the worst team in the league that beat you 2 weeks ago, but you're playing, this game's going to start at like 10:40 p.m. Eastern time.
Dude, you just brought in a bunch of factors that should not be a factor.
Okay.
You go in there and smoke them. That's what everybody else does. You got to go get your licks in there, too. Everybody else does it. They get crushed all the time. That's just what they are. That's
you got to win this game. You got to win this game.
Dude, you got to smoke San Jose and then smoke Anaheim. And I do understand and appreciate that Anaheim, I think they put up a 6 spot on the Bruins, but the Bruins stink too.
Mm-hmm.
But those are games where it's like my only comparison is playing the Atlanta Thrashers, and damn did I play those guys a lot. All you had to do was get through 20 minutes because that's how long they could. Sometimes it was 10, but you had to prepare that you were going to play 20 hard minutes against Ray Ferraro and the Atlanta Thrashers, and the drop off in the second period was outrageous. It was like, that's all we got, man. We can hang with you for 20, but that's all we got. Missed assignments, terrible goaltending, and you'd win the game 5-1 every time. Every time.
Yeah.
But you had to show up, man, because you never know what could happen. Kovalchuk could rip a couple breakaways, their power play. You had to play that 20 minutes like you were playing the New Jersey Devils back in our day. But at the end of you get 5-1. You get a 5-1 win, man. Some cookies, some apples. And you get on the bus, and you're out. That's how you do it.
The Kings aren't easy at home, right? So you got
Dude, the Kings is a coin flip,
That'll be tough.
So
at
best. You lose this game.
Dude, Noodles said they've only lost 3 times at home the whole season.
Yeah, they never lose at home.
Then you're walking in, and now that game on Sunday is a desperate one against the Ducks.
Strudge, they did not get your attention. I know you guys are probably going to end up playing them in the first round. I don't think it's going to be like – I don't think Edmonton is going to be like – they might be a heavy favorite, but I like LA in that series right now, man.
I don't know. They're good. I really like them. I like the way their team's built.
You don't have the Stones to stay. You like the Oilers, or you like the Kings over
Kings
the
in
Oil?
5, Strud. Just say it. Kings in 5.
Say it out.
You know what? I'll say this.
Kings in 5.
Let me take a look at the game lineup for Game 83, because right now I have no sense that Trent Frederick. It was said yesterday by the head coach of the Oilers that he might start to skate in 1 to 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how much time is left in the year? That's just skating. That's not playing games.
What was his injury? Is it knee?
I heard it was. I thought it was foot. I don't know, but there's an issue. Then you get down to Kane, not to the playoffs. Connor and Leon. Maybe not too long, but I don't know who's going to be healthy. And then give me the Skinner situation too. So right now, if some of those guys aren't playing, you got to
Kings in 5, man. Kings in 5, Strud.
It's a lot different series.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, the Kings.
I think the Kings in 5 is an ignorant comment. I don't think it's going to be Oil all the way. The Kings if they can get some goaltending from Kemper.
Yeah.
Watch out.
But can they beat them 4 times in a row? Like, will the same team lose to you three times already and 4 times? Like, I know it's a coin toss and all the stats, but still, like 4 times in a row beat the same team in the playoffs?
Well, that's it, right? That was the Battle of Ontario back in the day.
I would bet maybe it's going to come down to 7 games. That might be a 7-game series against the LA Kings.
Yeah, and it's been that before. That's when McDavid had that big game. Was that 3 years ago when he scored Game 7 in LA and they won 2-0, I think it was, and that was like the big kind of closer. Like he's arrived in the playoff. Like that was his first big playoff moment, or it felt like it. And that seems to be where it's trending. I mean, Vegas has got a 5-point lead on LA. And then 7 up on Edmonton. Edmonton's in Seattle tonight. And I would assume Pickard's going to go, right, Strud? Like, he's got to. He went in late. He's got to play tonight.
Yeah, I think he'll be in there tonight. Then they called up a younger guy, Olivia Rodriguez. I don't know that because the Oilers play Calgary on Saturday night. And Calgary's desperate and rolling. They're rolling. They're comeback kids right now. So I'm not sure you give a young goalie that game either, the Battle of Alberta. So you're looking at next week for his earliest chance.
Okay. But yeah, we'll see with this Leaf team on the road and in San Jose and then in LA, like we said, and then Anaheim, and it's a quick trip. And then you got Florida on Wednesday, and Tampa's in action tonight. I think they have Utah at home, and that's a big game for both teams. Utah's trying to pretend as if they're still in the hunt. I'm not sure that they are. I don't think they can keep up with St. Louis. And you mentioned Calgary winning. Vancouver won again last night. So it could be curtains for Utah. But the race, Tampa wins tonight. Florida's not playing. If the Leafs find a way to lose somehow and Tampa wins, you're going to have 3 teams tied with 89 points. And they're all going to have 10 games left to play, give or take. So it's going to be a crazy race, right down the stretch here. And a lot of it will be determined on how your goaltenders play. How healthy are they? Are they red hot? If you're chasing a wild card spot, if you're chasing first place in the division, if you're chasing the President's Trophy, whatever it might be, a lot of it can be based on goaltending. And that's the nature of the position, and that's the position our next guest happened to play throughout his career. Here he is from the NHL on TNT, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Here's Darren Pang. What's up, Panger?
Hazy, I'm doing fantastic. You brought in the right guy. The guy that won 27 career wins and had 0 shutouts. I'll break this down with the best of them. How you doing there, O-Dog and Struddy? Good to see you guys.
We're doing good. It's nice to have another former professional athlete on the show, Panger. I give you a salute, pal.
Thanks, pal. I appreciate that. I just got back from Atlanta where we had a nice little studio show last night.
Beautiful. You know what, Panger? I was just talking about the Atlanta Thrashers, and I was talking about dealing with bad teams in the NHL. And the approach with the Atlanta Thrashers always was, you got to be prepared because they can usually hang with you for 20 minutes. And then after 20 minutes, they fall apart at the seams. And I don't know why that is, whether it's lack of talent, lack of coaching, or lack of discipline. But after 20, they're all over the map. Their goaltenders collapse. They take penalties, and it's a zoo, and you get a 5-1 win every time.
And that's when you went and played Peachtree Country Club or something, and you cashed in on 2 and 1. You had 3, and you were +1. I know that story, O-Dog.
Buddy, 3 hat tricks. 2 of them were in that building. I feasted on those Thrashers.
See, Struddy, I knew where he was going right there. Well, I would say this, that listen, that's scary right now when you watch some games and you go, oh boy, like Jersey last night was in Chicago, and although Jersey kind of, ran shotgun and went to the net hard and had a lead, next thing they know, it's a 1-goal game. And it's like, whoa, we're supposed to come in here and win. We're going to Winnipeg. We're going to Minnesota. These are the 2 points we're supposed to cash in on. And that's the funny thing about the NHL right now, with the lack of discipline and lack of structure, how easy it is for teams that are so desperate for points to take their foot off the gas for 3, 4, 5 minutes and check out. And you check out that quickly, bang, you're back into it. Look at Dallas last night. I didn't think for a second that Edmonton was going to be able to climb back in that hockey game. And all it took was their goaltender get dinged in the head and left the game. And next thing you know, it was a different hockey team for, I think, about 12 minutes. I was like, what? Where were you at the beginning of this hockey game? But that's
what a lot of guys say
game.
Back to me, Panger. Like they say, it's just chaotic. Like you think it's back in the day where you're up 2-1 in the beginning of the third period, lock it down. It's chaos. It could be 4-3 for the other team in 15 minutes, and people don't know what the hell's going on. It must be awfully difficult to coach.
Well, that's why. How many times have we heard Torts? And a lot of people take some of his quotes out of context, but I remember doing a game last year. It was in Philadelphia, and we had Torts on via the headset, in one of the locker rooms around the Flyers locker room, and the studio asked him a question, and all you could hear was, the players are young and dumb. And that was the quote. But what he was saying, what he was saying and the substance behind it was very accurate. And it's exactly what you just said, O-Dog. It's kind of freelance, checked out, chaotic. Struddy would come behind the net and make a pass to the left winger, and he knew 100 times that left winger was there. And he'd have a strong stick, and he'd make sure he got it out of the zone. I swear nowadays a defenseman wheels around the net, he looks at the right winger and he goes, like, where did you go? Like it's like a sandlot football sometimes, Like,
well, Darren, I think part of the problem is all that kids do, and I know Struddy has a defenseman camp in Edmonton, and I'm almost positive that the proper philosophies would be implemented and things to do that are game ready.
Almost.
But all kids all kids, all they want to do is get plastic sticks out and do Connor McDavid drills and fly up and down the ice and try to rip it under the bar. The idea of coaching to win in simple things and getting pucks out and I talk about it in the World Juniors all the time. I'm like, that guy just dangled down the ice and toe dragged and this and that and got a shot on net. But look at this goal here. He could not get the puck out. It's like it's not taught. It's not even an essential to move up.
You know, we talk about in broadcasting, and the great John Davidson was one of my mentors early on, but he says, there's always cause and effect. Go find it. You know, and you're right. I mean, oh my goodness, a great rush chance, primary assist, but you know, it's the little things behind the play that we really have to focus on. And that's why there's a team right now. I know we're going to segue probably into something else, but there's a team right now I think that has done a really good job in developing some young character players. One of them is from Edmonton, and that Jake Neighbors. I think when I first saw Jake Neighbors go into St. Louis and be brought in by Braden Shen, where he lived at his house, and now I'm seeing some of the other guys, like maybe it's a Zach Bolduc, or maybe it's now we see Dylan Holloway. You know, that's why the St. Louis Blues are rolling right now, because they're playing hockey the right way. They're playing playoff hockey. They're taking hits to make plays. They're getting pucks out. They're coming up the ice as a team with speed. So those are the ones that you got to look at here as we get closer to the playoffs, because they're the ones that are going to make a mark, in my opinion.
With Darren Pang. And yeah, it's interesting. Like, you talk about culture and you talk about certain players sticking around, and you mentioned Braden Shen, and his name was out there a lot leading up to the trade deadline. And obviously Doug Armstrong and company are happy they kept him, or never approached him with the idea of trading him, because you look what's happened since, and they're in the playoffs and they look like they can make some noise. But you take, who was taken out of Boston, out of their locker room, out of their dressing room. You take, Scott Laughton and others out of the dressing room down in Philly. Those two teams are a disaster. Like, Boston's quit. Like, the Bruins have flat out quit. Like, they are done. They are a disaster. And Philly is a mess. Like, they just rolled through town, Panger. We watched it with our own eyes the other night. It is brutal. And I guess Danny Briere, like, Tortorella got fired today. We'll get to that. And Danny Briere is speaking with the media right now. And I just saw a quote come across saying, quote, "We really hope this is our rock bottom," end quote. Obviously, you hope that, but it better be. If it's not, like, if there's more of a bottom here, that's got to be very, very anxious, man. That's going to lead to a lot of anxiety around that team, and that's very unsettling. The idea that there's no guarantees it's going to get better. Maybe it gets worse in Philly, in Boston, and other spots where they're trying to kind of retool on the fly here.
Whoa, it's hard when you're watching and you can tell that a team has lost its soul, and that is really disturbing to watch the checkout part of the game. And you're right. This happened very fast with the Boston Bruins in their 100th year of the National Hockey League. Philadelphia came through Chicago. Chicago put 7 on them. They played Fedotov after he gave up 2 on 3 shots against in Dallas the night before. They played him again. He gave up 7. Yeah, there's I have great faith in Keith Jones and Danny Briere. I think they've got some old school positivity about them, and I think maybe. The next head coach for a number of different teams are going to be, you got to hit it right out of the park, don't you? You have to. Like, I'm looking at a team like Washington right now. I don't know. I know I really speak highly of Washington, but I've done a ton of games there, and I just love that coaching staff. I think maybe we're going back to something else here. Maybe we're going back to great spirit in the night, as Bruce Springsteen once sang, and the positivity, or the getting everybody on this. Pulling on the same rope and all that kind of stuff, Struddy, and this, like, maybe that's where it's at right now. And maybe we can't teach the old school way all the time, because the kids, or not all of them, I shouldn't say that. I'm not going to put them and cast them into one little basket here. There are so many of them that get it. They understand it. They've been taught hockey the right way. But boy, if you don't pick those players right too, you're in it for a ride, and it's dangerous at both ends.
Panger, Dallas Stars are an interesting team to me. I've seen them play quite a few times, and I like a lot of their players, especially since they added Mikko Rantanen. As I watched them, especially the last couple of weeks, they don't seem to play fast. I don't know if it's because they don't move the puck quick, or they don't skate fast. I mean, they get the odd breakaway, but just coming out of their zone, and maybe they're missing Heiskanen. But is that a fair comment about a team that has tons of talent in their top 9 and tons of goals?
Yeah. I think it is, Struddy. I thought you were going to say they added a player at the deadline. His name was Jason Robertson.
Yeah, he's alive now. I mean, he scores every night.
He's on
Wow,
fire. What a shot!
Has
What a
he
shot.
turned it up? And we had him on the air after the game, and I didn't realize that foot surgery that he had was so severe, and that missing camp, and he's not the fastest guy anyway, but it does explain, besides the pressures maybe of trying to make Team USA, that he struggled early on. But you're right. I think, I even watched them last night. The Edmonton Oilers with that lineup, which I would say was a pedestrian-like lineup, and if you took that roster or that line combinations last night from the Edmonton Oilers, they're not a playoff team, and that's why you pay $5,800 million for McDavid and Draisaitl, because it was bland. It was, it didn't have any pressure up ice. It didn't have anything to the game. And then I know they turned it around a little bit, but they had 14 really good shots in that first period. If not for Ottinger in that first period, it probably would have been 2 or 3-0 if they had any finish whatsoever. So yeah, I was watching the game too, being a little concerned with the defensive lapses and the type of quality chances that they gave against Jake Ottinger. And I said it last night. I said, hey, if they're going to win the Stanley Cup, then he's going to be the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. That'll be it. Jake Ottinger will be the Conn Smythe Trophy winner if the Dallas Stars beat Colorado, beat Edmonton, beat Vegas, whatever, and they end up winning the Stanley Cup. So yeah, I think there's a part of their game that Pete DeBoer's probably not happy with, and either of the players. But if you look at them, I don't think Wyatt Johnson's got those quick little spurts. Jamie Benn's not fast. He's got to move the puck quick. You mentioned Robertson, the same thing. You mentioned Rantanen. That's a big horse, but that's not a quick fella. Yeah. It's not Seabiscuit getting around the track. It's sometimes it's one of those, and I say this with a great compliment because I love him, but I say that like he's the Budweiser Clydesdale that's sitting over there in the St. Louis area, and he's plowing through things, and he's grabbing onto people, and they're hanging onto his hip, and he's dragging them along. So I love Rantanen. I think that the mix there is going to be very good, but I do agree with you, Struddy, that they could move that puck a little quicker and play a little bit more of a faster game.
That Rantanen's got to be the guy that needs to do. I know you mentioned he's a big dude, but there's whispers, and you just look at the comments on Twitter. He's starting to hear it a little bit out there in Dallas now too, where it's like, is this guy going to start dialing it in here? Because everyone talked about him the proper way, which is one of the most dominant offensive players in the game, but he didn't bring it in Carolina. Clearly, he was not happy there. And then in Dallas, it's kind of been a bit of a shaky start, so he needs to really get it going.
Yeah. I do not disagree whatsoever. I do not disagree. And I think in the playoffs, when you're hunkering down low and you're moving the pucks down to the goal line, I think you got to get used to the way players play. And once he goes down to that goal line, the puck has to go there. For me, that's it. He's not going to transport it through the neutral zone. He needs the speed through the neutral zone. Then he can get it at the down low game and wear you right down, and that's where he's going to be great.
With Darren Pang, and Rantanen was the guy that ran into Skinner last night, and he's not even in the crease. He's in the white paint, and Skinner drops. It was fluky. Yet Perry was not happy with himself after the game that he didn't see it, didn't address it. You speak for the goalie for eternity here, Panger, in terms of what is reasonable to expect in terms of goaltender protection, but furthermore, how your team is supposed to respond to it when it was clearly a fluky play.
Yeah, this is a nothing play. And I think the goaltenders like Skinner, he makes the save upwards, lunges up, which is a classic, a lot of the goaltenders kind of do it, but Skinner does it a lot. So he lunges up. When does the body turn this way and end up? It's his head,
right?
You don't usually make a save and end up on your belly, and that's a technique that I don't like that for a lot of reasons. Mike Smith was like that. That looked like a Mike Smith kind of save right there, if you guys recall.
Sure. Right.
And now he's going forward. There's nothing that Rantanen's doing right there that's wrong for me. He actually lifts up his left leg trying to get it around him, I thought. So it's a really unfortunate one because I've had those stingers or burners before, and they're bad. You guys probably have had them the same way. You don't expect it. You're looking one way, your head just gets clipped. It could be the pants, it could be the shin pad, it could be the thigh pad, and it sends a ripple right down your neck for sure. And in fact, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking of that because I could, but Corey Perry afterwards. So there was another little bump in. But Corey Perry also, the worm does what the worm does. He goes. Do you remember what he did? He went right to the net. He put on the brakes and he went skates first. Right into Ottinger. And that could have been a pretty dangerous play too. And that was right after a couple of sequences right there. So, I mean, that's part of the game. That's, we've been around it forever. Glenn Anderson was pretty darn good at it. We've seen Chris Kreider. That's a little accidentally on purpose stuff as well. But at the end of the day, I didn't think that there was motive, to go over and have a 5-on-5 brawl with Rantanen because of that one particular play. It is unfortunate, but there's no way this was an intended play, in my opinion.
No, I think we're all with you on that with Darren Pang. So the Leafs, they're in San Jose tonight, and as of right now, they're in first place in the division, and it's a tedious lead because Florida's technically tied in points, and Tampa's 2 points behind them. But we're 11 games out, and it's been a pretty consistent discussion all year in terms of who should start Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs for the Leafs. Should it be Stolarz? Should it be Wall? I mean, it's subject to change between now and Game 1, clearly. But if it were to be going down tonight, if Game 1 was happening tonight, who do you think should be starting in net for the Leafs?
Well, I'm still leaning towards my guy from St. Louis. I'm still leaning towards Joseph Wall. I really think that he's a rhythmic goaltender. I think that in relief, I think Stolarz can come in and because of his lack of movement, his good puck handling, and the size of him, I think if it doesn't work and you need to make the switch, I would rather, this is just me, I would start with Wall, and I would, if you have to make that move, I think it'd be an easier transition getting Stolarz in there rather than the other way. Because I like to get Joseph Wall into a rhythm. I like to get him into these games, and I have found that, the more he plays and the more that he's, that calmness in the net, everybody feeds off of that as well. So that's just what I would do. But, not being there every single day and not seeing every single movement or practices, it is hard. But that would be just my outside opinion on that.
It's an interesting thought, though, the idea that you'd have to consider if you're Berube and company, who is more comfortable with possibly being replaced or being the one that will replace the other guy. And that's I don't think that's overly comforting, the idea that you have to plan for possibly replacing a guy. I mean, they're not doing that in Tampa. They're not doing that in Florida. They're not going to do that in Winnipeg, right? It doesn't matter what happens in Game 1. Hellebuck's going back in. But the idea
Casey, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Just because I'll forget what I was going to say. That comes with age, you guys. That's what happens. The luxury of all the teams that you said, they can't go to number 2. Most of them. The depth in the net, the quality
right. It's such
of
a
the
drop
second
off.
guy.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, so that's the luxury that they have, and that's why I wouldn't mind talking about it. I believe that if the Toronto Maple Leafs hypothetically are going to go all the way to the conference final, they're going to use both goaltenders. I don't believe one guy's going to run the table anyway.
Really?
So it's just the way that the quality of chances, the pressure on the goaltenders, the scrutiny of every goal against. I think there's going to be needing some relief, and I think that's fine. I mean, I wouldn't have an issue if I'm the goalie coach or chief, and one guy's running out of gas a little bit and it's wearing on you. This is still Toronto. This is still it's not like they're playing out in other cities that don't demand it and don't have an eye on every single little thing that you do and every coffee you have in the morning.
Big time.
The key is the guy that you put in second has got to be dynamite.
There you go. That's why Toronto's got a good tandem.
Yeah, but if you put him in, you're generally under distress or it's after a loss. The other guy's got to get in there and win a game and be unbelievable. Because if he's not, then you just got 2 guys that aren't getting it done. Pretty simple comment.
Yep. Well, yeah, but it's true, and I wonder
that was solid. That was rock solid, O-Dog.
There's a lot of depth, and I like it, and it's right.
I appreciate
it's accurate. But I wonder if what we're saying here is that instead of focusing on who starts Game 1, it's more importantly who would start Game 7. Like, who do you have more comfort in when the lights are the brightest?
Struddy, we're jumped to Game 7 already. Man,
that's what happens every year up here. It happens.
Start having one playoff round win in 10 years. You got to think ahead.
Game 7s, man. You can usually pencil it in for the Leafs. They don't go well, but they get there.
When the Leafs won that playoff series in 2004 against Ottawa,
right?
Steve Levy and I were on the call for ESPN. O-Dog and Struddy were still playing. And then I was on the call, was it 2 years ago, for their first round playoff series win against Tampa Bay.
Crazy.
I've seen both of them since 2004. I'm there.
That's it. Those in 21 years. There's been two of them. There's been two wins.
You think, guys, I can't make that decision, or can you, Pang, or make that decision now? I think it depends what happens in the series, how the guys are playing. Like, if one of them is running the table, then you leave them. So I can't say it's
absolutely.
I don't know. I'd have a hard time making that. I'd maybe think who I'd want, but I think that changes in the moment, doesn't it?
Oh, you don't think in that backdoor hot stove when after a game having a nice cold one, morning skate having a nice brew of Tim Hortons coffee, and the boys are sitting there without any cameras and going, "Okay, boys, what do you think?" Of course they are. What do you think? Okay, who do you like? And I bet that room is like, it could be split, it could be unanimous, it could be what happens if we get into a game 7? Who's our horse? Yeah, no question. That's what I love about hockey is hot stoving, throwing things around.
It's a beautiful
I would
thing.
love hammering a beer in the back of the bus saying, "That guy sucks, that guy stinks. We need that."
Never been a good player according to OverDrive. Right? Except you in Atlanta.
It's funny, O-Dog. I usually slide a couple of cold ones in the back of the bus.
That's where they deserve to be.
I don't know if there's lots of good beers out there, Panger, but a victory and maybe a couple goals. I was always about the team success, though. A victory and a cold one on the bus. There's not a better beer. There's not a better beer.
Do we have time for my best beer story, Hazy? Or are we out of time?
Absolutely. Always have time for that.
I just found out from Bob Pulford. He said that I could get an apartment. We were on the road, and it was like early November of '87. Made the Hawks, but it wasn't sure if I made them. I was staying at this old Bismarck hotel that the Wirtzes owned. Oh, yeah. Finally, he said you can get a place. So we're on the road. We're playing Detroit. We're at Joe Louis Arena, and it's my first time playing a game against Steve, which we've grown up, and it was quite an exciting dream to play against Steve in Detroit, and so we won the game. So I'm in the shower, and I didn't, we hadn't won very many games. So I wasn't part of, I don't think any wins or maybe one. I go in the shower and there's a nice cooler in the back and there's all this cold beer. And I'm sitting there with this cold beer and I'm thinking to myself, the hot water, a nice crisp cold beer. And I'm 135 pounds and I'm just soaking wet. And I got this nice cold Pilsner. And this is a bad thing, but it's warm water there, cold beer there, and something's warm hitting my leg. Steve Thomas and Stumpy says, "Great game, Spank." So I've got, what's going on.
Stumpy, man, come on.
Love
so you
that
had
guy.
3 different temperatures all at the same time. Is that what you're saying, Panger? That was your introduction to the Joe Louis Arena.
And that was my introduction to a win. Cold beer in the shower and celebrating and just one of those team moments, you guys. There you go.
That's what happens behind the scenes. It is a thing of beauty. We appreciate that as always, and we appreciate you finding time for us, Panger. We love having you on. Thank you for doing this.
It's always my pleasure. Take care. Struddy, O-Dog, be good out there.
There it is. Darren Pang of the NHL on TNT joining us here on Maple Toyota Hotline. Drive the built-in Canada fuel-efficient, fun-to-drive Toyota RAV4 gas or hybrid models. Available. Visit mapletoyota.com. Panger sounds like he's somewhat he's very confident in the idea that if the Leafs are going to do anything, both goalies are going to play. And I guess that is that seems reasonable considering the way things have played out all year, but I don't know. I can't remember the last time we had a team go on a run where it was a tandem. You might have one guy start and then the other guy steps in.
It's easy to go to the Chicago Blackhawks where Crawford didn't have his A stuff against Nashville, and Darling, the 6'8" monster, went in there and he won them the series. And then the next series, Crawford went back, and I believe they ultimately went on to win the Stanley Cup. There's one other example, and I'm just not sure what it is, but it's been relatively recent.
Well, there was Fleury and Murray, and
Fleury, Murray, even like Bobrovsky a couple of years ago in the March. I don't think he started. It was like Alex Lyon, dude.
It was, but then by game 4 or 5, Bob got in, and Lyon wasn't getting back in. And that's what I'm saying. It's like if. Fine, Wall starts game 1, 2, and 3, then Stolarz gets in, and the rest is history. It's Stolarz the whole time. That's one thing. But
I almost don't like talking about the idea, Hayes, because it's like, why can't, for this organization, one guy go in there and be good for a playoff run? Like, why can't Joseph Wall just be dynamite for 2 months and, like, not have to worry about a tandem? It's like, we're always just thinking negative thoughts where it's like, oh yeah, like even Panger, that was his professional opinion, but he's like, you're gonna need a tandem. It's like, yeah, but why do we really need that? Like, why can't one guy just do the job one time? Like one time, can we get some saves? Can we remember the Samsonov performance in Game 7 last year? It was like, it was not good. Yeah, but they just need a goalie performance, man.
Like, I do understand. I think what he's saying, though, is that maybe it won't be like A, B, A, B, A, B, but it might be a bit of a run. The guy gets a break, then someone else goes in there. Because I think ultimately someone takes control of the net. I truly feel that way. At some point, someone in the playoffs takes it over.
Yeah, and for a lot of the season, Struddy, I was like, this Stolars, he's big, he's kind of reliable, he's performing. But sometimes I watch Joseph Wall play, and I'm like, man, if that guy's dialed in and he doesn't get hurt, because that's a massive factor, I look at his talent and his capabilities of doing the miraculous. I'm like, maybe that's the guy that could steal a game or a series or be a dominant factor in a series. I don't know. I change my mind every day. After one of them has a good performance, I'm like, yeah, that's my guy. I literally flip-flop after every good performance.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's, again, a positive because it's not going the other way where they're both blowing up. Where, like, again, in Edmonton, as we circle back, you're not really confident in either guy right now. Where with the Leafs, if you're confident in both, you still only one can play, but it's better than the alternative where someone has to play and it feels like you're forcing it. You're basically closing your eyes and hoping it works out. All right, Pierre LeBrun coming up in just over half an hour. We've got we're going to do a draft on the show today. I thought of this the other day when I was watching Quinn Hughes play. There's so many talented players in this country that are playing for the 7 Canadian teams. We're each going to have 5 picks. I think we'll build it thinking of the next 3 to 5 years. So you're not building a team for the next decade, 15 years. It's basically a 3 to 5 year window. And I'm curious how these picks shake out because we'll snake it, and there's no rules or regulations. It's not like you need a forward, then a defenseman, then a goalie, because there's so many good players in this country. And I'm curious how things have maybe changed from where it would have been to start the year, which we'll tell you more about this. We'll get into it in about an hour.
How many guys per team are we?
I think we each
23 men.
I think we each pick 5. I think there's 15 total players in the country, and I'm just, we presume McDavid's still going to go first overall, but who would go second, third, fourth? You got Hellebuck playing the way he's playing. There's a lot of really good players who are having really good years and different stages in their careers. So we'll get to that in about an hour. Again, the Leafs are in action tonight. You can hear it right here on TSN Radio. We'll tee it up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Pierre LeBrun still to come. Leafs in action tonight. Get to our 7 Canadian team draft. We'll touch on that a little bit later this afternoon as I'm watching another baseball fly into right field down at the Rogers Center. Chad Green just gave up a 3-run home run. Jays are getting smoked 9-2. Barrios gave up 3 home runs.
Remember
6 earned.
A couple years ago, opened it, and it was just miserable from there on out.
Yeah. Yeah, it was his first, I believe, like full season with the team after he had signed the big extension.
Got the ball opening and just got rocked, and he never got it back on track.
He never did. And
it'll get ugly down there, man. I don't want to go off the rails.
It's one game. It's still playing.
But they have a couple series in a row where they get dummy down there. Man, will those people start losing it?
Is there a lot of pressure on that first pitcher, like the first day pitcher? Like, do you think that there's that much? Like, there's 161 games after.
That's having perspective. You're right, Struddy. But when you're in the moment, opening day it's just got a different feel to it and vibe to it. There's opening day and then everything else, basically, through the regular season. Okay. Where there's all this build-up, and the building's packed. There's 50,000 people down there.
Yeah, it's a new version of the first impression, right?
Right, exactly.
You want to pile all those people into that dome and just get rocked, and then everyone's like, screw this, I'm not coming back here. You want a 6-1 victory where everyone's like, I don't care what happened. I watched the Expos. When we played Montreal in the playoffs, I went to the Expos home opener.
Really?
Rammed. They got crushed. Next night, 4,000 people.
I know. That was nearing the end. And
it was their last season. It was the end of the line.
Yeah, that was. They were not going to get any support, and the Big O, the stadium sucked, and the team, I don't know. Right. But this is also a scenario where you have a fan base who is on edge already You know, they're on edge, and they want to see the improvements. And, Barrios has been here for quite some time. And, if you're a smart enough fan, you understand it is one game. They can still come back and win the series. And maybe they come back and win the game. But we talked a lot about it yesterday. The first 5 or 6 weeks, the schedule is very, very tough. Like, very tough. And they play Baltimore twice, Boston twice, and the Yankees. You've got 5 series against the big boys in your division within the first month of the season. So you got to set a tone immediately. Like, you can't get to May 1st and be 5-6 games under 500 and chasing it. Like, I just don't think they're built to do that. And again, this 7 innings of opening day does not mean that that's what's going to happen. But this was the discussion before the first pitch today, and it's going to be highlighted, with whatever happens the rest of the way here, because they need something out of the rotation. They need the bats to come alive. Jimenez hit a home run, which is big. He's batting cleanup today. He hit a home run. There's a first impression, right? There's a guy that's going to be here for a long time, one of the acquisitions they got out of Cleveland, and he's obviously off to a pretty good start, but they're just getting rocked. Like, that's 4 home runs Baltimore's hit today, and that will quiet a park down pretty quickly.
Oh, my God. It'll empty a park, man.
Yeah, it can. It can. Like, when the opponents are just mashing and it's basically batting practice for the Orioles, that is really difficult to chew on if you're a fan. We talked about the Alphonso Davies story a lot yesterday, and I guess his agent, Nadal Husey, has tweeted out 20 minutes ago. Over the past 24 hours, I spoke with Jesse Marsh on several occasions. I have a lot of respect for him as a coach. We had positive and productive discussions and laid down the groundwork to ensure we are all aligned and working together to continue to protect the best interest of players. Moving forward, everyone involved will be focused on prioritizing Fonzie's recovery, end quote.
That sounds like somebody got in his ear.
Well, there's a couple things I would say on that. One, yes, again, as I said yesterday, I think it's imperative that Davies says something here. Like, I know he's in one right now. He's probably very emotional. It sucks because now he's going back to his club team and he can't play. Just had surgery. It's really, really tough for him. You can't have your agent speaking all the time. That drives me crazy. You're the captain. You're the face of the program. You got to speak. You got to come out and say something here.
And it wouldn't be a bad thing if you said, under no circumstance would my coach put me at harm and make me do anything.
Right.
I make the call whether I play or not.
Exactly.
That would be very helpful if he came out on one side of that or the other.
Yes.
Instead of having the speculation out there and all the other nonsense going on.
Well, exactly. And furthermore, like, I don't know who this guy, the agent, thinks he is, but, like, now we laid the groundwork to ensure we're all aligned and work. Like, who are you to be involved in the program? Like, this is the men's national team that's on the way to the World Cup. I understand agents have power and they've got insight and they're hovering around, but the idea that Jesse Marsh has to run things through you, to me, is outrageous.
That's just an agent that's pissy.
It's trying to be a hero.
He's got a high-end
Exactly.
client that's got an ACL that's blowing out right now, and he's trying to act like a hero and act like he's got his client's back.
He's trying to get follows.
At some point, the player's got to step in and say, dude, I'm injured. I'm going to take care of this. Just please shut your mouth.
Yeah.
But when he went out, do you think that he was asked by Davies to say something? Like, why? Because I wouldn't want my agent speaking on my behalf without me saying to go for it.
Well, we've always said, Struddy, when
mean,
the agent comes out with a comment, it's through the player, because he wouldn't just blurt something out without going through his player. You would think.
Like
you're
Alan
representing
Walsh.
the player.
Alan
Exactly.
He says a lot, and I always want to believe the player's asking him to do it, because personally, I would never want my agent to say anything on my behalf. Nothing.
Right.
It always comes through me, because then it's my words and I'm saying it. Everyone knows it. But when you hear agents go through it, I personally don't like it either. But I'd have to believe he'd said something to him to say it.
Absolutely. Well, and again, the original comments to One Soccer and to Christian Jack were indicating, he was saying, it's my belief, this is what's happened, and that he would have gotten that, you assume, from Davies. Like Davies would have been telling him what was going on, and that's what kind of lit this whole thing on fire. And what sucks is Davies hurt, and now the program, there's a cloud over it, and Jesse Marsh is trying to push the positivity forward here.
You know how mad I'd be if I was Jesse Marsh? I would be mad, man.
Oh,
yeah. If he did not, and I can't picture it. Like, I thought the guys last night, Luke and Stevie and Kevin Kilbane, did a great job of kind of breaking it down from their perspective and Kilman and Stephen Caldwell have both played on international clubs in Scotland and Ireland. And, Kilman said, like, in all of his time, he's never heard of a manager forcing a player to play.
Exactly.
Like, it's just, let alone someone of this caliber. Like if it's a scenario where you've got illness and you got injuries and you got someone further down your depth chart where you say, man, I need you to step up and help us out of here, that might be one thing. If it's in the World Cup, a World Cup final, that might be one thing.
It's always just a question. The coach will leave it final with the question, can you go?
Can you go? Exactly.
Yeah, and the player says yes or no.
Right.
But the trainer's also the guard keeper here, or the gatekeeper, because he wants to make sure his name's on the line as well. But then a high-profile player, if they are really injured, they'll just say no. Right? They'll say no. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
right.
I don't know. There's something up with this story that I'm not getting. I'm not understanding.
Yeah, I'm with you exactly. And without obviously being there, we're not going to know. And the Canada came out and issued a statement in supporting Fonzie, and this is big though. Like Marsh has got to get to the bottom of it. It doesn't matter how he and Alphonso Davies agent is going to interact. He's got to interact with Davies. Like the two of them have got to be on the same page. Like you're 15 months out of the World Cup. It's the biggest moment in Canadian soccer history. That's what is 15 months away. And this guy, you can't have the head coach and the star player at odds. Like it's a potential recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
And the player is going to win in the end. Like that's the truth. Jesse Marsh is not going to survive over Davies. Davies is playing. So if he's got an issue with Marsh, Marsh is in trouble, right? Like Marsh is the one, even though, again, I find it hard to believe he forced him to do anything or anything of the sorts, he's got to straighten it out here because if Davies doesn't see eye to eye with him or if Davies isn't on the same page, that's trouble for Marsh. It will not be trouble for Davies. Davies isn't coming off the bench because Jesse Marsh doesn't like what happened here. Or he's not getting cut because, that's not happening. Davies is playing.
Dude, the worst scenario for Marsh is if Davies is pissy and wants to act like a petulant child when this is resolved. And
it would probably cost him his job. Like Marsh,
dude, no kidding,
I don't think he'd survive that. I don't know if he would survive it because Davies is who he is. And he's so important to the program. He's the best player. He's their captain, the face of the program. They're not, they need him. That's kind of what's at stake here. Like you got to make sure both parties are cool with each other, and hopefully they will be, and everything will blow over. But it's not a good scene right now. All right, Pierre LeBrun in 20 minutes. We'll get to a draft in about 45. The Stephen A. Smith versus LeBron James thing is just
so out of control.
Out of control.
Stephen A. Smith is completely making an ass of himself. Like it is so pathetic. There is one other twist to the story that I found to be, I don't know why it got my attention, but little things like this amuse me. Kendrick Perkins I guess he's a shoe dude, like he's got these Nike Jordan shoes.
Mm-hmm.
When he came out and said LeBron's the GOAT, I read this today. They stopped sending him Jordan shoes.
You're kidding me.
Dude, I swear. Look on the Awful Announcer Twitter account. That they published that story today. Kendrick stopped getting shoes after he said LeBron is the GOAT. I just looked at that. I'm like, what universe are we living in right now?
So that would suggest Jordan and the Jordan brand are so petty that
saw it.
If you don't fall in line, you're out.
Don't even think about asking for it because we've been hooking you up with these Jordan shoes, which cost us a gazillion.
But he could still buy them. I mean, Perk was in the NBA for a long time. He works for ESPN.
I don't think it would be a big factor, but no matter how much money you have, when you get free stuff, it's a nice thing.
It can be. Yeah, it can be.
So I read that and I just said to myself, like, what universe are we living in when this guy's... But Stephen A. Smith comments, like, just to get back to it, to come out and said, if that man had to put his hands on me, I would have started swinging.
So
like,
stupid.
Dude, LeBron would have stuffed him in a garbage can so fast.
And it's a hypothetical that didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? It's almost LeVar Ball.
Anybody could come out and say, you know what, like... If that guy did that, I would kick his ass. Really?
Right.
You're not kicking anyone's ass, dude. You're making yourself look like an idiot.
It's LeVar Ball.
Like, there's only one road for him to take, Stephen A. Smith. I make a living about talking about LeBron on a daily basis. I hope this ends because I want to continue talking about him and his career. End of story.
Well, he stepped in one today, too. He said that LeBron wasn't at Kobe's
Dude,
memorial.
you want to go there,
and
man.
he was, and that that's crossing the line.
It is, man.
That's really crossing the line. Because you want to talk about the player, you want to talk about even your personal relationship. That's engaging.
Talk about his son though too.
Yeah, well, and again, you talk about the player
as a father,
but that's what LeBron is claiming that was the issue he took, and I think there's some broken telephone.
So he said LeBron wasn't at Kobe's funeral.
Yeah, he started going on about like I could have brought up stuff, I could have talked about why you weren't at Kobe, and LeBron was. And he had to retract the statement, and then he tweeted something out about it, saying, "Hey, apologize." Like that's
when you
greasy,
look like a
man.
complete idiot.
Yeah,
man.
you can't say like that, and that's Kobe Bryant you're dealing with there too. Like that's just not necessary in terms of the conversation that we're having right here, or the two of them are having right now. But LeBron's he stirred it up going on McAfee because now all ESPN's gone crazy, and it happened on ESPN. Like it's wild what's going on down there. All right, Pierre LeBrun will join us in about 15 minutes. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Pierre LeBrun coming up on John Tortorella being let go in Philly this morning. Big games tonight. You got Montreal in Philly tonight, Ottawa, Detroit, Edmonton, and Seattle. The Leafs in San Jose tonight. Leafs, tough travel. These East Coast teams, Strud. It's a grind for them to go out to California. It's a grind really for the hard. East Coast teams.
Yeah, it makes a difference. I mean, they have short travel when they're at home, but it's hard. Playing the West is way different.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy for the Leafs. But
only the tough survive out West.
Only the tough survive. That's right.
We're gritty. We're just grittier.
Yep. Well, we'll see about that in the final hour. We'll see what kind of steam you got left there, Spread. Best bet still to come as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.